Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. I'm gonna make one more video here tonight, at least one more. I have to get to hit hay here. At least I have one student in the morning tomorrow. Hopefully my brother soon. So there's something I know what I want to talk about. I just don't know the words. I don't know how to explain this train of thought. But I'm gonna try to do my best here. But it seems like ever since I don't know. I've had the darndest time trying to just live life in such a way that, or at least I've had the darndest time trying to feel like people understand something about me or about people in general that have more certain things in common with me. Or how can I put this? It seems to me, it just seems to me like there are a growing number of people that don't have their heads on straight regarding what having good, righteous character means. And let me go about this in a little bit different way than something involving, uh, well, we know about the Ten Commandments, and it's always good to review them, regardless of how little you might think of them. What does it mean to have good character, in addition to not murdering people and being faithful to your wife and trying to be chaste and not stealing and not lying and all this stuff? And what more especially, how can you maintain having good character and good cheer when your chips are down in some respect, or when things are hard, and more especially when a lot of people seem to either ignore you, or they have wrong ideas about you, or you felt like people had a lot of wrong, erroneous ideas about you in the past, or you felt shafted or ignored, pushed away. Like life is hard, you know. We don't even have to talk about whatever's going on online so much, because that's probably for most of us not too huge of a chunk of our social life, but increasingly for many people it is. Maybe to clarify that a bit more, one of the things, and I'm just willing to bet this, it's just a hunch of mine. There are a growing number of people that probably are having more of their social life on social media. And there's a lot of people who have talked about this. Quite a number of people have talked about this on YouTube already. And those are good videos. And they definitely are right smack on the money sometimes when we're talking about this, all the things having to do with developing good character and being happy and healthy and all. And there's many things I need to do better, but a lot of stuff I feel like I'm just I feel like a victim sometimes more than I feel proactive. But whether or not I feel like a victim or I feel more proactive, either way, I think it's just life can be very hard right now for a lot of people, quite a number of people. Oh, it's so hard to stick with one train of thought and just develop it more. I should organize these thoughts more, but just to stick with this one for a second, it's a little bit like it's a little bit like I've seen a number of movies ever since the mid '90s, maybe 2000s on. There are a growing number of movies, and it's no coincidence why this is the case. Again, things are getting not so fun, Illuminati, bad, dark, evil, satanic. There are a growing number of movies that are always coming out that seem like they're very soulless, or they seem like it seems like to me like all the characters, or vast majority of them, are just scummy, just bad, talking about nasty stuff all the time. They're depressing, they're angry, they're dark, they're mean, vicious, they lash out at people. Like, all these things that they do, they undermine other people, they embarrass other people. They're deceptive, they're liars. You don't know who they are. They steal identities, and so on and so forth. Everything, everything that we hate, right? It's in these movies. These are the characters that make up the vast majority of these movies. And if there's any character that has any glimmer of anything good about them, there's like maybe one of them, if only one. Maybe, and they're like, there's all these directors love to have these realistic, right? Realistic, uh, realistic characters that are flawed. Oh, because if they were better people, they would be unrealistic, as though being a really good person is unrealistic, right? Just oh man. So that's what we're watching. When you see a movie these days, you're watching movies of a bunch of bad people, people that are really shady, and you say, "Oh, this is great media because this is realistic and all." Yeah, it doesn't matter what genre the movie is. It could be fantasy, it could be sci-fi, it could be horror, it could be certainly horror, but it could also be horror is so brainless sometimes. Yeah, film noir, crime drama, thriller, supposed romance. Doesn't matter what the movie is, what the genre is. It's all gonna have scummy people in it, scummy characters. You guys realize, talking about these movies, talking about all this crap. There are people that fill their lives with this crap, and it's no wonder why they act this way. Why people are acting in increasingly why people are acting in increasingly soulless ways. They're acting more like these characters. I'm not exaggerating, but like, it's just to take a step back. If you have good character, there's all of these qualities you're going to have that people say, oh, that person actually has good character. If you are merciful, if you're kind, if you are honest, if you are, chaste, if you're pure, if you're loving, and if you're hardworking, and you are, you do your best, and you struggle, and you keep struggling, you don't give up, and put on a brave face, and you're gutsy, and fearless. Or you have fear, but you have courage as well. And you just keep going. Right? These are all good qualities. Is society to a point where we're saying now that these qualities are not good? Because if that's the case, we're heading. I mean, the world's gonna go to hell if that's the case. Because those are good qualities. 100%. No, absolutely no confusion about that. If you are a kind, good, loving, honest, upright person, and you don't steal, and you work hard, those are good qualities, not evil qualities. And anyone who says otherwise, anyone who says otherwise, is not of God, but of the devil. And I don't care who's saying it. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong, and it's evil. It's evil to say that lying is okay. It's evil and wrong. Murder, betrayal, sexual morality, any of that stuff. But yet, so when you see movies like this, and you see all these characters acting this way, and say, "Oh, this is realistic. It's the way things are," and we like, you're always watching grittier and grittier media, right? That's what's on TV, and that's what's on in video games. That's what's on pop music and radio. It's everywhere, and there's hard things that are happening to people. I mean, okay, so getting back to my original premise, having good character and maintaining a sense of who you are in these days, right? So is always the question of, I want you guys to look at your own selves for a second. Look inside your soul and how you're feeling. You could be troubled, you could be sad, you could be whatever. But there's a there is something in you that is your real self. There's all the other things that maybe you're putting on as masks or as shields or as whatever, but there is your real self, and your choices over time do influence your real self, but there's still, as long as you're making good choices overall, there's still that um, sense of your real self. The more that you've made bad choices, the more you've done bad things and really truly evil things, the harder it's going to be to find your real self. But it's, on some level, we're talking about spiritual stuff here, and that it can be very intangible. So, um, but no, that's why people have more life about them. If someone has more life, more energy, not necessarily that they're physically, socially energetic, but it's kind of that you feel uplifted when you're around that person, that they have more energy. So if you feel emotionally uplifted by someone, that's a sign that that person is a good person. If you feel the opposite, you feel drained around some people, that's a sign that there's evil there. We hesitate to say that someone's evil, but they're involved with evil stuff, or they have evil spirits. They're kind of, draining their own energy, their own lifestyle. So then they drain other people's energy. It's really a little complicated, and some people are just very negative in general. So how do you maintain a sense of who you are? And how do you repeatedly just keep fighting battles? Maybe you're not always fighting the right battles, but you find the strength to struggle and to move on, struggle on. But how do you do that when it seems like so many people are, sorry, sneeze here for a second, sorry. Maybe. There we go. How do you ignore the riffraff when the riffraff is saying you're a certain way, you're this or that or this or that? How do you not listen to the riffraff? How do you deal with all this crap in life and you still remember who you are? And that, you're not this scummy person that everyone says you are. How do you do it? Okay, so I can look at just my own self in this respect, but I can look at, it can be anybody. Anybody, anyone. Doesn't matter where they live, doesn't matter what country they are at, doesn't matter what race. Any human being on the face of the earth. You get positive and negative stuff coming at you all the time. Sometimes it's more positive, sometimes it's more negative. Everybody's life's different. Some people are in jail. Some people are out or have freedom, or outside of out of jail, whatever. But some people are in the military. Some people are just keep going. And there are some very bad people out there, but most people I think are pretty good. But how do you maintain a sense of who you really are? And this is the question. This is the question I want you guys to keep thinking about after this video. I mean, there's the question. There's kind of like that search for your identity. I don't know why the Beatles did that. And for instance, you don't need to search for your identity. You kind of learn more about your true self over time in this life anyway. But you always have this feeling inside of who you are. it's a kind of it's just this awareness, this and language escapes us. We're talking about our own souls. We can use words that kind of come close, somewhat, sometimes closer, sometimes further. We can use images, we can use music, we can use all this stuff, anything that we can to describe people, our true selves, but it all kind of falls short. Sometimes some things get pretty close, like very sublime music or very descriptive music, perhaps, or art or whatever. But it still falls so much short of who we really are, and that's the reason why that is because we are children of God. I mean, we really are, of infinite worth, but we don't realize that sometimes. And we don't realize that when things are really hard, and when people are very accusatory, or we feel like we're scummy, or that we're not worth whatever, or we feel hopeless, despairing. We don't feel the energy, but we need to move forward in life. We're tired, we're worn out, you know, or whatever else, But knowing who we really are, right? Knowing who we are and maintaining that knowledge. It was so important to me when I was in school, when I was younger, because a lot of people said some very unkind things. A lot of people ignored me. Not because I was unkind, I was always very kind, but because maybe I wasn't very socially desirable in some respects. I'm not really sure. I was brainy and aloof a little bit. Not more shy than aloof, I suppose. I was often lost in my own thoughts. But for whatever reason, I was either ignored or shunned or pleasantly ignored or misunderstood or anything like that. Whatever names, whatever imagined names, whatever came my way, I think I did maintain a knowledge of who I really was. And it was hard when I was younger. In some respects, it does. I don't know. Is it easier when you get older? I don't know. It's kind of like we just deal with more crud in a oh different kind of way, I suppose. Um, Nobody really wants you. Nobody really. Not too many people coerce you to be a certain way. That doesn't happen as often as when you're younger, especially when you're preteens and teens, trying to fit into certain crowds. Oh yeah, but yeah, but nobody really does that, especially after college. I mean, people let you be yourself for the most part. I mean, and whatever you think that means, ultimately, what that means is if you're a total basket case, people are going to let you be a basket case so long as you're not killing people and stuff, right? But so maybe you might think it's easier to be yourself, but it's always a question of, but how do you know who you are, and how is it? How does what's the relationship between what you're doing every day, what you're thinking about, what you're valuing, what is it you're after, and do you ever get where you're going, or do you ever get what you want? And then what's the next thing you want? Where's your desires? And so how is you see you understand that maybe there are times in life when things might be easier that way to know who you are and have real confidence that way. And there might be times that are harder, but how do you say to somebody, heck no? Like you can be now if somebody says something either unkind or inaccurate about you, or you just know it's full of nonsense, or right, but maybe there's a glimmer of truth in it. I mean, how do you respond to people that just say stuff about you, but not? I mean, like the stuff that really digs deep, the stuff that really is really more difficult to hear, harder to hear, whether it's true or not. The stuff that just is just for some reason it really just really bothers you. how do you hear that stuff and you don't let it affect who you really are? Um, at this point, there's a lot of people that have better characters, some people that have kind of mediocre character, a few people that don't have as great of character, but a lot of people say um, not to be bothered by stuff that isn't really something you don't have to immediately attend to. So a lot of people just ignore the riffraff. But you know, um, I don't know. It's kind of like if you don't, if you don't, if you try not to let other people bother you that are not good people, it's difficult for some people to do that. I don't know why exactly, but um, you can't really cut yourself off from everyone in that regard, unless I don't know. Some people truly do operate in a way where they're not hurt as much by other people. But that's something that's a very um, psychology, spiritually, internal thing. You can't always. It's hard to understand for me, and I'm a more emotional, sensitive person, of course, myself, and more sensitive. It's hard to understand how some people can be less affected by other people and what they say, other people more affected. And you can say, you should always, people always say, well, you should be less affected. But then if you're less affected by people, will that ever affect how much you can be positively influenced by other people? If everybody's really happy and everybody, it's rubbing off on you and you're happier because other people are happy, would you feel less happy because you've, you're just thick skinned and you're just like not as sensitive to the wondrous feelings of being around great people? I don't know. It's hard for me to say because I'm simply not. I'm not that way. I am more sensitive myself to a lot of how people are. But again, getting back to this thing, it's kind of like it's important for me, being the way I am, to think about certain trains of thought on a fairly frequent basis. And let me tell you what these trains of thought are. They can be religious in nature, but they're often aesthetic. What I mean by aesthetic is they could be visual and musical or both. Really, actually, they're often both. But they're often it's a visual, musical, spiritual combination. There's some character and righteousness that I'm thinking about, certain aspects of character, oftentimes. It depends. Along with certain kinds of music. That tends to be more classical and sacred. Not always, but it can be other stuff too, but most often that kind of stuff. And its visual images are very soothing, very pleasing, very beautiful, imaginative sometimes. It all depends. And these are the sorts of trains of thought that keep me sane, that help keep me aware of who I am, and we're also including loved ones, being around loved ones, talking with your people that you're close to, right? And then after that point, after these central trains of thought, which often sometimes might involve brainstorming and just writing and composing and even too, all this kinds of stuff, eventually you get to, the other things that are hobbies, everything else we do that we have any degree of interest in. Eventually we get to, then after that you have the mundane things that you have to do that don't really do anything for you other than they have to do them in life. But what are the things that take you away from yourself? I mentioned before, it's all these stupid movies with all these depressing kinds of characters on them that we think that benefit us sometimes because I've heard it's like, oh, this is how people really are in real life. Well, not really, not always. There's some better people out there, and when movies only show people that are scummy, you can feel yourself kind of. It feels, we feel scummy. We don't feel good. We feel scummier. I mean, look, if I was a stockbroker, no, actually, if I was a Wolf of Wall Street type guy, and I was doing all that stuff that they were doing, would I lose my soul? Just imagine, just imagine a person who is doing cocaine and having sex with prostitutes all the time, hookers. They're making gobs, just tons of money, and they're acting like the way that Leonardo DiCaprio was acting in his role. What does it do? What does it do to somebody? Really, what does it do spiritually? You guys tell me. What is the effect that all these things have on someone when they do them? Do they lose a part of their soul? Are they angrier? Are they more vicious? Are they more carnally minded? As in, do they lust after women more? I don't know. Do they lose refinement in their soul? What is the effect of all these things? We talk about commandments, but what's the effect of all these things in the media? What's the effect of all these things that can really seriously distract us from who we really are? The only way you could know if something is taking you away from who you really are is if you feel more confused and miserable about life, and you don't feel as strong of a sense of who you are as much as when you're younger. Now you could. There's all kinds of people in life, but in my opinion, everybody starts out good, or everybody starts out not evil, at least. You could think so. If someone there, I don't know. I'm definitely always curious with the subject, the idea of there being, some very seriously evil kids and stuff. But but as far as my intuition and knowledge can tell me about humanity, evil spirits are always working on us to be evil, more wicked, as well as good spirits are encouraging us to be better people. It's both, it goes both ways. But the evil spirits, demons, know which folks are the worst, and they, can very easily cloud their judgment and all this stuff. Right? There's all kinds of stuff that's going on that we just don't see in real life. It doesn't mean that it's false. It doesn't mean there's nothing to it. It just means that we just can't see it. So the thing, getting back to who we are, who are we? And how can we, again, resist all this stuff, all this understandings about us personally, and all the whatever, and all the nonsense? How do we get rid of that? And some people don't want to hear it anymore. It's one of the things that makes this world fallen. This is a fallen life we're living in. It's the kind of life where we need to choose between good and evil, and based on our choices, determine largely what happens in the next life. So we need to do the best we can. But like, it's a struggle. It's a struggle in life to do okay. I mean, to get past certain heartaches and things. Um, I don't know. Like, it's really important, I think, for everybody to have time to be aware of your own thoughts. Again, I can talk about stuff about my faith, and the importance of having integrity and and just being kind to yourself and to other people. Of course, we can also talk about this from in a Buddhist standpoint. This mindfulness thing I keep hearing about, being very present and in the moment, and all that kind of thing. We're often talking about very similar things here. If you get up on the right side of the bed, if you're not cranky, and you're being very, you're trying to help other people, you're trying to uplift other people in your life. You only want good things for people, and you're trying not to dwell on the people that you don't like, and because you don't want to think about bad things about people, even people that bother you. You don't want to think about that stuff. You don't want to be around them, right? You're trying to resist that stuff. If you try to encourage anger in your own soul, it's not good. And whether you're talking about my church or a lot of other churches in general, religions or Buddhism, like I mentioned, um, it's good for the soul to have these times to reflect on who we really are, because whether it's media or whether it's just some weird folks that are saying all this crap and that it's very hurtful and it kind of gets under our skin, to be able to push that away, keep pushing that stuff away, we need to have a lot of stuff in our tank. We need to have, I'm a good person, we have to have that mindset of I'm a good person. I'm a worthwhile person that matters, that people love me, I love them. Anyway, I gotta wrap this up. Leave me thoughts or comments below. Catch you guys later. Take care.